Hey guys, it's Scott from Proformance Motorsport in Australia, and we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the new EMP, electronically speed controlled oil pump. Anyone that's been on the website might have seen the case studies where we've written a lot of information about oil pumps, what to use, what not to use. And the last 15 years of racing, we've had a lot of different pumps that we've tried on our trophy truck from all different manufacturers claiming to have the best oil pump on the market. And let me tell you, 99% of the stuff that we tested was total garbage. This is a little bit different. It's a bit of an unusual beast. It's an electronically speed controlled oil pump. A bit different to what we've seen on the market. If you read the case study on our website, you'll see that most of the pumps are basically water pumps that have been converted with an electric motor to run DC, and they basically push so much oil that they use 20, 30, 40 amps of current just to push a bit of oil around our race car. Once we go down to a small line and a bit of high viscosity oil, the pumps just basically don't pump anything and they just overheat. And I can't say anything other than they're total garbage. They're absolute crap. And the EMP pump's a little bit different to everything else that we've played with in the past, in the fact that it's electronically speed controlled. So it doesn't just have a couple of wires, a plus and a minus, it has a whole pile of wires to basically control the speed of the pump. We've got hold of this one, we ordered this one pre-programmed to a particular speed. And what they do is they go into some software and they tell it the flow rate that you want, and it programs it into the pump, and it stays at that flow rate for the entire time you're running the pump. But what we have here is an EMP pump on test. We have a suction line pulling out of our tank here. We have a block-off valve. We're able to shut the valve off to create some head. We have a little test line here for the pressure gauge, and we have an ammeter here showing the current consumption of the pump for various flows and heads. One thing we did notice is as we changed the head and introduced a bit of pressure, the flow rate really didn't change very much at all, which was quite amazing. I'm just going to try and explain a little bit about what these guys have done in the new EMP oil pump, and I'm going to use a cordless drill to explain to the best of my ability how this electronic pump is actually a little bit different to a normal electric oil pump, or what most of the Chinese junk on the market, how they operate and the problems with the Chinese pumps. But in general, if you were to buy a cordless drill or a power drill that plugs in the wall, they have electronic speed controllers. Now the difference between a good quality one and a cheap one is when you pull the trigger and you do a very low speed on a cheap drill, you've got 5% throttle, and when you try and slow the chuck down, it just stalls. Then you have to give it more throttle to try and bring the thing back up to speed again. That's not really true speed control. All that really is just varying the amount of power that goes to the motor, like a light dimmer. Now a smart drill like Metabo and some of the better ones, some German products and some of the good Japanese products, if you hold the throttle at 5%, the chuck will run at 5%. As you try to put load on here, the electronics measure the speed. As it slows down, it puts more power on to keep it at 5% of its normal speed. Most cheap brands, when you do that, it just stops, and you have to put more power on. When you take the load away, it speeds up, and you load it down and it slows down. A good drill will maintain constant speed irrespective of the load. Now what's interesting about this pump is, as we introduce pressure into the circuit, they're using the same sort of electronics and smarts in the pump, so that the pump's been told run at a certain speed, create a certain flow. If you introduce head into that and the pressure increases, the pump says, oh, I'm starting to slow down a little bit, I'm going to maintain the flow by increasing the amount of power the pump needs to use. So it's very different to what you see on the market, and I must say most of the pumps on the market, they are total crap. Absolute garbage. We've tested a lot of them. If you jump on our website, you'll see a lot of our results. We've actually written a case study about exactly that and all the pumps that have been flooded on the market. And trust me, we've had a lot of the stuff we've tried to put in our trophy truck. We've tested it. We've done hydraulic testing on it, and I wouldn't put it anywhere near anything more than $1,000. So guys, we're just going to run through some of the testing of the pump shortly and show you the results that we've got. So here we have the EMP pump running at 0 pressure, pulling about 3 amps. What's interesting is when we increase the pressure to say 20, 30 psi, you'll see the current consumption really doesn't increase a great deal. Now the previous pumps we've tested in the past, if you get 10, 20 psi of back pressure, like pumping a thick oil through an oil cooler or something like that, the current consumption would quadruple or go up by a factor of 10. We'd go from 5 amps to 15, 20, 30, 35 amps of current just to push some gearbox oil through a cooler and back again. It was a very, very obvious change in current consumption based on oil viscosity and head. But here we have the EMP pump running at 20 psi, 4 amps. 50 psi, 6 amps. Now that's a considerable difference between the other pumps we've tested in the past. I'm pretty happy to say that I'm really glad we've found a pump that when we increase the pressure or increase the viscosity or push it through a bunch of coolers, it's not going to consume 30 amps of current. In our previous trophy truck we had a rear diff oil pump, a front diff oil pump and a transfer case oil pump. When we're pumping thick oil when the vehicle was cold and the oil wasn't very warm yet and we're lubricating all the gears, we were pulling 25 to 30 amps per pump, which is just unacceptable. Happy to say this is a fantastic product, well produced, well designed. The electronic speed control is something we've never experienced before. It controls the flow rate perfectly, it reduces the amount of current consumption, and basically it's an oil pump designed to be an oil pump. It's not a water pump with a DC motor whacked on the back. It's not a fuel pump that's designed to pump fuel and alcohol and then people can say, oh, I can pump oil and high viscosities. This is an oil pump designed to push oil against high pressures if required, and it won't consume a ton of current if the pressure goes up, and it won't change the flow rate should the pressure increase or decrease as you're going through coolers and up and down different pipes. Guys, great product, and stay tuned for some new videos. Thank you.